Hey everybody, welcome back to the Amateur Hour Sports Podcast. I got Roman joining me for today's episode, and it is Crisis Club Monday, the weekly segment where we talk about which teams are in biggest crisis in world sport. We have two teams in absolute crisis mode for this week, but before we get into that, just like to remind everybody that merch is available. You can get your stickers, water bottles, mugs, travel mugs, all sorts of things at jagerman.redbubble.com. The link is in the description to buy merch. Buy some merch, support the show. But we'll get into the episode now. The first Crisis Club on the list for this week, unfortunately, is a team I have a bit of a soft spot for in the Premier League, Bournemouth. And they were featured 2 weeks ago, but they are in an absolutely dire situation at the moment. They have a host of injuries, first of all, and their form is absolutely abysmal. Since November, they have 3 positive results. Somehow those 3 positive results have come against Manchester United, Chelsea, and Arsenal. So their form since the start of November: they beat Man United, lost to Newcastle, lost to Wolves, lost to Tottenham, lost to Palace, lost to Liverpool, beat Chelsea, lost to Burnley, tied Arsenal, lost to Brighton, lost 4-0 to West Ham, lost 3-0 to Watford, and they just lost 1-0 to basement team Norwich City.
Those are all basement teams.
All their good results come against good teams somehow, except for the Liverpool one, and all their bad results are against teams that they need to be beating. And in the last 2 weeks, the teams that are in 8th, Bournemouth are in 19th. The teams that were in 18th and 20th beat them in the last 2 weeks. And their next game comes up against Brighton, and the next Premier League game comes up against Aston Villa. So these are all teams who are fighting to stay in the Premier League, and they are not getting results at the moment. There has been no output from Callum Wilson recently. Ryan Fraser has gone quiet, and there is a multitude of injuries. Like the Brooks injury happened a while ago. That was big. People tend to forget about Stacey, who is a good squad player that they've been using, has been injured. Steve Cook just got a 3-game suspension for playing goalkeeper against Norwich.
Yep.
Jesus Christ.
King's out.
King is out, who is huge for their link up top. There is a lot to deal with for Eddie Howe, and unfortunately, I cannot see anything but Bournemouth going down with Norwich and with Aston Villa, because Watford are a whole new team under Nigel Pearson. I don't think they've lost yet since they've hired Nigel Pearson.
No, I don't think
West Ham, I think, have too much talent to go down. I think with a new manager, it will help them kick on, even though I'm not too fond of their manager, David Moyes. I think Brighton have enough goal scoring that they will be able to stay out with Mopé the way he's been playing. Burnley, I think Sean Dyche is too good of a manager to let that team go down. I think he has enough going for him at the moment. They are coming off a good result. They beat Leicester City yesterday. And Southampton, I'll touch on them. Danny Ings is an absolute goal machine right now. I can't see them dropping off too much. So unfortunately for me, it looks like the teams in the bottom 3 right now, Villa, Bournemouth, and Norwich, are the teams that will be going down. And I know that West Ham are playing midweek in the Premier League. I think that's a makeup game that they have.
Who are they playing?
They're playing Leicester. I don't know if everybody has that game.
No idea.
But regardless, I don't know. Are there midweek games this week?
I don't have a clue, actually.
Regardless of the situation, it looks to me like Bournemouth will be going down. Goal scoring wise, they are bottom of the Premier League. They have the least amount of goals scored. They are equal with Watford in that regard, and Watford are scoring more recently, and they scored 3 against Bournemouth. Yeah. Defensively, they aren't the worst, but it's been recently where they have conceded a lot of goals. And I really like Eddie Howe. I thought that when Allardyce got fired from his England job, I thought Eddie Howe should have been considered for the position. I still like Eddie Howe because what he's done with his team is remarkable, but with all these injuries, unfortunately, I don't see anything else than Bournemouth going down.
Do you think they let him go?
I don't think they should let him go.
But do you think they will? Not if they should.
I don't think they will. I don't think they will, because you got to think about the reason your team is in a position like this is because of Eddie Howe.
I agree.
It would be very difficult it will be really hard on him to fire him.
I don't think you get rid of him.
And I think that no matter who comes in, they're going down.
Yep.
So Well, I don't think their squad of players is good enough for the Premier League to begin with. And I think Eddie Howe is making it good enough because he's had mid-table finishes since he came in. I think he may have even had a top 10 finish. Not entirely sure about that, but I think he's done way too much for this club to warrant his firing. And I think that with Eddie Howe in charge, you can look positively, if you do go down, positively on your championship season being able to recover. I don't see them being, with Huddersfield, I saw it being difficult for them to recover. I thought they were going to really struggle in the championship, and they are. I don't see that being the same for Bournemouth. As long as they can hang on to some talent, I think that, if you keep Callum Wilson, if you keep Brooks, if you keep Fraser, it might be hard to keep on the Josh King, but maybe you can keep Philip Billing, who I really like. Lewis Cook as well as his quality when he's fit. So I think that with Eddie Howe, you got to look positively at coming back up next season. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't think they should fire him.
There are mid games.
Midweek.
There's midweek. So, they play on Tuesday versus Brighton.
Who? Bournemouth?
Yep. Yeah, I'm on the prem side right now.
Oof, man, that's a huge game.
Yep, Tuesday.
They got Brighton, then Arsenal in the Cup, then Villa.
But they were on, I think, 2 weeks ago on Crisis Club, and we already said that these games were massive, and they've dropped both of them.
Yeah, they lost both. Two huge games. And, like, the Norwich one, that's the worst team in the Premier League. If they won that game today, they would probably be in 17th.
Yeah.
Equal on points with West Ham, who are in 16th. But they would be...
I'm still not going to count West Ham out of possibly going down. They are playing horrid.
I just think that there's enough talent.
I understand that.
They won't go down.
But personally, I think Villa's going to squeak up. And I think someone's going to go down.
The squad of players, if you look at the bottom, let's say 7, going from Burnley all the way to Norwich, West Ham have the best squad of players at their disposal.
I agree.
Which is why I can't see them going down. Like with guys like Felipe Anderson, Sebastian Haller,
Did he play the last game?
He was injured, I think, but I don't think it's a significant injury.
Fair.
Snodgrass has been playing very well.
Yes, he has.
Declan Rice has been fine. Mark Noble, when he's fit, is also very good. He's huge for that team. Their center back core, I like Diop. Igbon has been very good this season. Balbuena's a quality player.
What do you think of Burnley?
Burnley, I just think they can grit out and grind their way into safety. Sean Dyche.
Without that result today, they are very close to getting.
Yeah, I know, but Sean Dyche is a good manager.
I understand that.
One of the best in the Premier League, in my opinion. I think he should have won Manager of the Season 2 years ago, even though Pep Guardiola won it. Sean Dyche got robbed. I think he does enough to keep Burnley up.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm good with all that.
Right. Who you got for us this week, Roman?
I got a team that is currently not playing right now because they shit the bed in their season. We're going to go back to the NFL and talk about the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
The main reason they're going to be on today is because of Luke Kuechly.
Yeah.
Losing a player.
Shout out Luke Kuechly, by the way, before you start, Roman. Unfortunately, had to retire. It's pretty sad to see a guy of such talent at such a young age have to retire, but, if you're in the doctor's office and you've had 3 documented concussions, maybe even more undocumented ones, and the doctor tells you, I don't know what's going to happen if you come back with a 4th one.
Props on him.
Had to make the decision for himself, look at the bank account, you go, I don't need this. I got my whole life ahead of me, right? But shout out Luke Kuechly. Congratulations on a tremendous NFL career. But Roman, continue.
All right, I'm going to go into Luke Kuechly a little bit because we're actually going to look at how much of a factor he was for this team.
The impact of this guy is ridiculous.
Is an amazing player. There's absolutely nothing to do with that. I believe he came out of Boston College. Let's see if... he did come out of Boston College. Picked 9th on the career total tackles, 1,092, which led the league and active players before he left.
Mm-hmm. From the time in the window of his NFL career, he had the most tackles.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Interceptions 18, which from a linebacker is nuts.
Yeah, that's actually fucking crazy.
67 pass deflections, 7 forced fumbles, 9 fumble recoveries, and 2 TDs.
Wow.
We're looking at one of the best linebackers in the game, if not the best linebacker that is currently playing.
Defensive player in the year in his 2nd season in the NFL.
Yep, 7-time Pro Bowler.
In 8 seasons, he had 7 Pro Bowls.
And just the toll that will take on your defense. He called all the plays for their defense.
The captain of that
he was
defense.
The captain
He's
of that
leader.
team. He was there for almost their rebuild.
The catalyst of that Super Bowl run they almost had. They almost won that Super Bowl. I think some small things go differently. They win that Super Bowl. I think Cam Newton didn't have best game. Didn't look like Cam wanted it.
Is that when they got blown out by Denver?
I don't think they got blown out.
I believe they got blown. I think that game was ugly.
Let me look it up.
Okay, but
Keep talking.
Just to go back to what a player this guy was, it is very sad to see him leave. Not even for him, but just for the league in general. But Carolina, they're doing some things that are right for themselves, getting a new coach in Rule, who is, I think he'll do well for them.
They're overpaying him, but yeah.
I agree with that.
Coach.
They are definitely, and they
coach.
brought in Brady, which I think is going to be a great signing as their offensive coordinator. Brady was the pass coordinator for LSU, and they just won. But the one thing I'm very curious with is what they're going to do with their quarterback.
Yeah. By the way, that Super Bowl, Denver won 24-10. I remember one of the final plays of the game. I think somebody fumbled the ball, and it was going to Cam Newton.
Yeah.
And instead of diving on the ball to win back possession for his team, who I think it was a closer game at the time. I don't think it was a 2-score game at the time. But instead of diving for the ball, kind of backed away from contact to let Denver recover the fumble.
I don't remember that.
And I was just absolutely disgusted with the play because I couldn't believe that, the biggest game in football, and he could not sacrifice his body to get the ball back. Anyways.
Wish we knew who that player was. But to go back...
Cam Newton. It was Cam Newton.
it was Cam we're talking about? I thought it was
I'm talking about Cam Newton.
Sorry. Okay. To go back to Carolina...
Speaking of Cam Newton...
It doesn't look like they want him no more.
Well, last season, Allen, was playing fine.
I don't call it fine. He's got 17 TDs and 16 interceptions. I don't call that fine.
How many games did he play?
I'm not too... 13 games.
13 games. It's not great, but...
One game he did throw 4 interceptions.
Why would that be the guy they want to roll with?
Especially when you have the 8 pick. Their cornerbacks are horrid, too. They have a terrible defense now that Kuechly is gone. I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to be in shambles. But
offensively, QBs, is there a ton of pieces that can really get traded? You can trade Cam Newton to get some defensive pieces, but you need a quarterback. I don't know if you want to run with Allen.
Hey, but look at the episode we just dropped. How many QBs are available?
A lot of QBs available, but are they, is Carolina a team that's going to be able to go towards these guys?
Brand new coach, brand new offensive coordinator who just came off of LSU.
Yeah, I guess.
And the big thing with Cam is what I'm really curious with is if they keep him on the roster next year, they got to pay him $21.1 million. If they drop him, they only pay him $2 million. Especially with Luke Kuechly leaving now, you have a ton of cap room. Are you going to try to make some moves?
I think
Do you trade that pick possibly?
Because it's a different coach, it's tough to judge how they're going to use Cam Newton from now because they didn't seem like they wanted him last year, but Matt Rule coming in, I think that the reason they're bringing him in is for a rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to really say what they're going to want to do.
All right,
they actually had the 7th pick.
Is it 7th? Sorry. Okay, let me give you a little scenario here. This is just completely out of the blue, but let's say you know how Miami is rumored to go for Tua right now?
Yeah.
They have, I think, is it the 3rd they have?
5th.
The 5th, sorry. And he's not going to drop to 8th.
No.
There's been rumors that Carolina have wanted Tua in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they possibly trade Cam and the 7th for it? Trade for Miami just for Tua?
I don't think Miami would go for that, though.
Do you not? You're getting
If you're Miami, do you go for that?
You're getting a decent QB with a fresh start.
Yeah, but
you're
getting a decent QB, but you're not. But what's he gonna? What kind of weapons is Cam Newton playing with on a team like Miami?
They have 2 first-round picks as well. Don't forget about that. They have Pittsburgh's, and they would have the 7th, which is still 2 good picks.
I can't see.
It's hypothetical, obviously. I'm just trying to see.
I can't see Miami wanting to do that. If I'm Miami, I'm happy I'm getting 2 at 5.
That's fair.
People are calling him potentially the number 1 pick.
Yeah, until the injury.
So.
It's just I don't know what Carolina does.
I think if I'm Matt Rule, I shop Cam Newton, but if I can't get a good return, try to rebuild with him. You know that he's been a winner before. You know he can be a good quarterback.
The other thing
But Carolina have to start rebuilding.
The other thing with him is he's on 1 year. 1 year contract now.
Cam Newton?
So he's got 1 more year, and then he's going to want the bag.
I think...
A man like Cam...
Again, you try to shop him, play with him a bit, but if it's not working out, let his contract expire and try to get somebody new.
Because do we see something like Bell here?
Le'Veon Bell?
Do we see something similar with what he did to Pittsburgh? He sits, he says basically, fuck you to the franchise, you didn't want me now. And he sits that whole year and then walks free. I think Cam, personally, I think he has the personality to do it.
I do as well, but...
Especially with them sitting. I know he was injured.
The thing is, Le'Veon Bell, we knew Le'Veon Bell was the best running back in the NFL when he stopped playing.
That is fair.
When he stopped,
that's fair.
That's the best running back in the NFL. Cam Newton wasn't even starting for his team at the end of the season.
Hey, but a couple years ago, he was up there.
Yeah, but when Le'Veon Bell left and he took a season out, we remembered Le'Veon Bell as the best running back in the NFL. Obviously, he didn't show that this season.
Love it.
But when you look at a guy like Cam Newton, Kyle Allen was playing over him.
Yep.
So how can you really look at a guy like that and say, "Oh, we need to pay this guy"? Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's going to be a rebuild process with Carolina because you lost your best defender. You already had the second worst defense in the NFL when you consider points allowed.
Don't know what they're gonna do with the draft at all.
Cam Newton, I think, if he wants to be there, well, sure, you can use him. If he doesn't want to be there, then you can use somebody else and you can rebuild through another route. I don't think that it's a make or break Carolina-wise for when you look at Cam Newton. He's not in. I don't think he's in the long-term plans, unfortunately, for Matt Rule.
No, I can't see it either. If I'm Cam, it's interesting because, again, if Carolina gets rid of him, they save a ton of money.
Yeah, and I think that's why they might look to do so, and especially that even with Cam Newton, they're going to be awful, like we've been saying, with the defense without Kuechly. So rebuild, just start fresh, get your team back. It's a organization with some good ownership. They've shown in the last decade that they can get to the heights that they want to achieve. They almost won a Super Bowl. So I think rebuild is the best way to go from here. But it's going to be ugly next season. Bit of a crisis without Kuechly.
It's going to be ugly for the next couple seasons. You really got to rebuild your D. I think we're going to see what Pittsburgh has done. Pittsburgh had a all-time D about, I would say, 10 years ago. 10 to 8 years ago. And then
Palomalu days.
Yeah. And then they slowly rebuilded and we drafted tons of players, all defensively. It's a process, yeah, for sure.
So there you go. Just Carolina have to accept the process. Anyways, that will wrap up this episode. I think Bournemouth are the bigger crisis.
Oh, that's for sure. They suck.
Bournemouth are in big trouble. But that will end this episode. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today for this episode. You can follow us on Twitter or Instagram at AmateurPDC. Like I said at the start, we have the merch drop. Go check that out. Link in the description. Follow on Spotify. Subscribe on YouTube. And as usual, we post every single day. So keep coming back for that daily content. We will see you tomorrow.